We learned about this in 7th grade. Absolute value is just the distance from 0. Here's some easy 7th grade review. We've already done some of these in class, but let's just review real quickly. Anytime we have these things in absolute value, this is an absolute value symbol. This just means how far away from 0 is -4. The answer to that is going to be 4. When you're looking at an equation, you're going to have to go and simplify all of those absolute value parts before you can combine anything together. On this one, the absolute value, how far away from 0 is -10? That is 10. If we simplify this, 3 minus 4 is -1. And how far away from 0 is -1? That is 1. And then we would just finish simplifying this. 10 minus 1 is 9. So that's just a little tiny refresher from 7th grade. Now, let's look and see what's new and different this year. New and different this year is we're going to have something that looks like this. And what this means is what number is this many spaces away from 0? So another way we could write that is x plus 0 equals 4. So what number is 4 spaces away from 0? Well, let's look and see what that's going to be. I'm going to put this on 0, and I'm going to look and see what number is 4 spaces away from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, my answers, I have 2 answers every single time I have an absolute value. So my answers are 4 and -4. So let's just write down that there are 2 answers anytime we have an absolute value equation. So let's try another one. Let's try something that doesn't start at 0, because that's kind of where we're going this year. Let's try, we want a number that is 3 spaces away from 2. Now, be careful, because notice this says the opposite of. So whatever this number is, we're going to have to go the opposite of. So let's say at +2, which means we are going to actually start at -2. That right there, this right here, tells us that we're going to go the opposite of that, so it'll be -2. And we want to know what is 3 spaces away from -2. So let's try that. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So in this situation, I have the number -5, and 1 is my answer. So I have 2 answers every single time I have an absolute value equation. Let's do one more just so you can see what that looks like. What number is 1 space away from, we'll put -3, but we already know that that means +3. So starting at +3, what is 1 space away? Well, that's going to be 2 and 4. All right. So let's look at this one. This one's a little bit different because it has an absolute value, but then we have some extra stuff with it. So in order to see where we're going to put this on our number line, we have to get the absolute value by itself first. So let's get rid of this. Now, if I were to rewrite this, I'm going to have absolute value of r minus 2 equals 4. Okay, what does this mean? This means what number is 4 spaces away from, and what's the opposite of -2 is +2. So let's see. There's +2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So those 2 numbers are -2 and 6. Now, here's where we're going to show you that if you don't have a number line in order to do this, or if you end up with an equation that's more complicated than something like this, I'm going to show you how to do this without the number line. So let's say we have, back here to our original equation, r minus 2 in absolute value equals 4. Here's how we're going to set this up. If we don't have a number line to do this and we need to come up with our two answers, which are -2 and 6, here's what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we know we're going to have to go in the +4 direction, and we know we're going to have to go in the -4 direction. So we're going to set it up to equal both of those. So r minus 2 in the +4 and r minus 2 in the -4 direction. Let's get r by itself. So r would equal 6, which is what we got right here. And if we add 2 to both sides, we have r equals -2, which is what we have right here. So in order to do this without a number line, here are your steps. Every single time we're going to do this. So simplify, which means get the absolute value by itself. Then we're going to set it to positive and negative. So we'll have two different equations. And then we're going to solve both of those, and those are going to give us our two answers. Let's try this problem right here. This one is a little bit different because it has a negative variable, so we wouldn't actually be able to put this on our number line. So let's see what we would be able to do. Let's move this. Simplify absolute value. It's already by itself. So let's set it to positive and negative equation. Absolute value of -1a plus 2 equals 11. And actually, we do not need the absolute value signs when we're setting these up. -1a plus 2 equals 11. And then we have -1a plus 2 equals -11. So that one's done. Now let's solve both of them and see what we get. -2. I end up with 9. -1a equals 9. Divide by -1, so a equals -9. Let's try this one. -2. -1a equals -13. Divide by -1, so a equals 13. Here are our two answers. There you go. So there are your 3 steps. We're going to want to use those 3 steps over and over again every time we have an absolute value equation. So let's try those 3 steps. Let's grab those and let's bring them over to the other page. Here's our 3 steps. I'll put them right here so we can use those. So if we look at this one, absolute value is already by itself. So let's set this up to equal negative and equal positive. 2x minus 6 equals 2. And 2x minus 6 equals -2. And then let's just solve. Add 6. 2x equals 8. So this equation, x equals 4. There's our first answer. Let's look at the next one. Add 6. 2x equals 4. Divide by 2. X equals 2. There's our second number. Now, here's where your trick problems come in. If you look at this problem on the left, now if I'm to look at a ruler and I'm to measure what is 2 spaces away, notice on your ruler there is no negative measurements. We cannot have an absolute value equation that equals a negative number. As soon as we see this, if absolute value is by itself and it equals a negative number, we're going to know that this does not work. This is no solution. So make sure you highlight this because this is going to be one of your tricky parts. Now, not to be confused, if you look at this equation, it looks like it equals a negative number. But our absolute value is not by itself yet. So if I were to get the absolute value by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by -2, which means this will cancel, and I will be left with absolute value of x minus 4 equals +2, and then from here I can set it up and solve it both ways. So make sure that you understand the difference between when it equals a negative number and when it kind of looks like it's going to equal a negative number. So that is your notes for today. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to give this homework problem a try and pause the video, try this problem, and then play the video and see if you get the same answer that I do. Okay, here we go. Absolute value is not by itself yet, so I'm going to get it by itself. At this point, I'm going to set it up to my +13 and my -13. I'm going to add 7. 2x equals 20 divided by 2, so x equals 10. That is my first answer. And let's do this one. Add 7. 2x equals -6. X equals -3. There's my second answer. Remember, you have to have both answers in order to get these correct this time. That is your notes for today.